Welcome, reporting to you live from Zoom. You are listening and or watching to Chais and Chisme, a podcast brought to you by World of Feriela.
I'm Jennifer, aka Fed, reporting live from the Pink Palace.
And I'm Daniela, aka Ella, reporting to you live from the Sirena Oasis. And Jen, what are we talking about today?
So today we are talking about kind of a deeper topic than we have been covering in the past episodes, but nevertheless still important, and we're still going to try to keep it, light and positive. And so we are talking about weight and body dysmorphia.
Yes, something you and I, unfortunately, and many people deal with on a daily basis. So I think it's something really important to talk about. I'm really excited to talk about this one.
Yes,
as
me
it's
too.
something that I still deal with. But first, how are you doing? What's going on?
I am doing good. This week has flown by. Again, it's Friday and I'm like, wow, what's going on? I just feel like it's Friday, but I'm happy. At least I know that much. But I just feel like a little bit in like a state of confusion, but also in the fact the week has flown by. I'm just happy that the weekend is here. I had a pretty chill week, which I so appreciate. I love, I am sometimes a busy bee, but my preferred week is always something a little busy and also chill at the same time. I don't like to be too busy because I get too stressed.
I am the other way around. I love to be a busy bee, but this has been a chill week. We record these podcasts a week in advance. And so when you guys are listening to this in our time, this is election week. And
Yes.
I haven't seen if the results are, no, they're not up yet, but things are getting close. It's been a stressful week for the whole country. The country is very divided. And personally, I am like, let's get Trump out of the office. So it's been a really like stressful and anxious week for everyone. But thankfully things look like they're taking a turn for the best in my personal opinion. But yeah, so like for me, like that's kind of been a thing. But besides that, it's been a pretty chill week. There's been a lot more balance. I started dancing more again this week, which makes me feel really good. And I'm taking on some new challenges and just like there was a time change and it really helped my sleep schedule a bit. So I'm feeling good. I didn't sleep that much last night because I I am Daniela and I'm a night owl and I feel productive at night. And so I did some work at night, unfortunately.
It's funny that you say that the time change actually helped out your sleeping schedule. The time change threw me off for at least a couple of days. I'm still thrown off. I look at them, I guess probably because, I am not a night owl. I am a early bird. So as an early bird, we really do judge the day and what's happening by the light. No, daylight, right? So when we do that, I'm always like, wait, it feels like it's this time right now, but it's not. And so it kind of throws me off because I'm judging by the light and the changes of light in my room. Then I'm like, it feels like it's this hour. It feels so late, but it's not that late.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely been getting darker earlier. And so I think
I don't like that.
my brain has definitely been like, because it gets dark like at 6 and before it was
hmm
getting dark, because in general, it's been getting darker earlier too. But
hmm
before it was getting dark, like in the summer, like at 8, 9, right?
hmm
And so my brain got used to the amount of time I was in the dark before I was going to sleep. Now it's like 6. So by like midnight, I'm getting pretty tired. And before it wasn't like I'd get tired until like 3, 4, sometimes 5 in the
My
morning.
goodness.
Cause I deal with insomnia.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time going to sleep in general. But this definitely helped me out a little bit. And also I overworked myself last week. Well, not overworked myself, but I was up late a lot of nights and I got up early a few times too. So that caught up with me this week. So I am grateful to that. For me, it's been a positive change for my insomnia.
hmm
Of course, last night I did not go to sleep early, but that was because I was getting some work done. And then my brain decided to just go to La La Land while I was laying in bed for like an hour. And then I was like, go to sleep, woman. But let's go ahead and dive into the topic.
Yes, I had a question actually to start off the topic.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your body today or this week? If today, yeah, or this week
Actually,
was.
that's a really great question.
hmm
Okay, my body dysmorphia has taken a new angle this
hmm
week.
Okay.
I started school in August as a full-time
hmm
student, and I was extremely nervous about gaining weight because I knew that I was going to be sitting more. and I'm going to talk about it later, but a time that I gained a lot of weight was when I was definitely sitting more.
Mm-hmm.
And I have gained weight. How much? I don't know. I don't know, and I don't care. But or I try not to care. But I definitely have, and I actually don't. I'm getting to a place where I do love my body, or I try really hard to love my body. I try really hard to dismiss those thoughts that try to tell me that I'm fat or that I don't look good, and I try not to scroll on social media. So this week specifically, I stopped scrolling on social media because I started to feel a little fat, even though when I look in the mirror, although I am curvy, um, I like what I see. I really do. But when I go on social media, because I'm a dancer, I get a lot of like dancers on there, and
Mm-hmm.
the majority of them they're itty bitty. Like, let's be real, they're itty bitty. Makes me feel bad about myself. It even translates over to making me feel bad about my worth as a dancer. So thankfully, I do follow some accounts of some beautiful and extremely talented curvy dancers,
Yes.
and it reminds me that my I don't need to change my body to be a successful dancer, and I shouldn't have to. Although people have told me that I
Mm-hmm.
should. But this week specifically, so body, we're feeling good, right?
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of body dysmorphia around my face, though. My
Okay.
face is starting to fill out a bit again, and I have worn my hair up once or twice this week, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
take it down because when my hair is up, I feel like my face is like if I pull my hair back, I feel like my face is really exposed, and I have a double chin, as most people do, right? But I've always had chubby cheeks, but because I have, like, even when I was really skinny, because I have chubby cheeks, when I fill out on my face, I feel like my face gets kind of round.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure nobody else notices it, but I have been feeling a lot of body dysmorphia around my face. And so although I'm really loving my body, like, you know
Mm-hmm.
having the body dysmorphia on my face is, there's this thought that keeps happening in my head that tells me, you need to lose weight because that's why your face is getting fat. Like, that one, I like that thought keeps digging at me all week. You need to lose weight. Your face is getting fat. Your face is getting fat. You've gained weight. And I'm like, but I like the way my body looks. And it's like, yeah, but your face is fat. And I'm like, I have that
Oh.
very awful, evil thought process going on in my head a lot, which I'm working on in therapy, actually, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not limited to body dysmorphia,
Of
but
course.
it's been very strong in that specific area. But that's kind of how I'm feeling about my body this week. What about you?
Okay. Well, actually, that was insane. To me, you look great. There's something I should say. There's something about you this week that I just feel like there's like this that you're radiating, and it radiates a lot in your face this week. I've noticed it, and it's interesting because that's how funny how body dysmorphia works. It's that I'm telling you, you this week you just have, even though I've you've had your hair up and everything, but there's something about you, like an energy that's like radiating in your face, and I was like, so to me, it makes you, not to say that you look bad before, but like it makes you've looked exceptionally well in my eyes this week.
I
So
appreciate that. And like, anyone watching is like, is Daniela about to cry? I'm as For those of you who are tuning in for the first time to Chais and Chisme, hi, I'm Daniela. I am a crybaby. I don't do it all the time, but my team, everyone knows Daniela cries every speech. But I appreciate that because alongside with the body dysmorphia or whatever, I've been experiencing a lot of depression, like very
Mm.
severe depression,
Mm-hmm.
very, very severe depression, unfortunately. And this week is the first week that I feel good, or that I feel better, that I feel motivated. So
Mm-hmm.
for you to say that it's reflected in my face, which is the thing that I feel the worst about this week, is extremely affirming and like validating. So thank you. I appreciate
Yeah. You, like I said, that's the way that body dysmorphia often works. We don't really see it. And I think that's often what happens in my experience as well. Because I do struggle as well with having body dysmorphia, which may come as a shock because given my size, people don't usually imagine that people who have body dysmorphia are bigger. And I tend to have that as well. But yeah, I'd say this week, surprisingly been a good week body wise. I think I can't remember how I felt earlier in the week, but I will say these last couple of days, typically this is well, over here we talk about things blatantly. We don't we try to destigmatize I'm on my period this week. And typically I've been tracking, I've always tracked because I do, this is how often I deal with body dysmorphia, is that I started tracking it in a journal when I feel this way. That way I could predict the patterns. Oops. That way I could predict the patterns and like, kind of see what's going on in those weeks. And one of those that I predicted before is around the time of my period. I tend to feel very body dysmorphic around my period. And I'm not sure why that is. It could be the bloating. It could just be the overall blah feeling. But usually I always mentally prepare myself, and also just I mentally prepare myself and just prepare because I am somebody who loves to wear outfits. That's a big part of who I am. I mentally prepare outfits in my head. I have these outfits that I have like that I wear on my period or when I have this body dysmorphia episode, because I know that if I try to wear, sometimes I will stray away from those like blueprints, but I know that I tend to feel that way. So I try to have predetermined outfits already set, or at least silhouettes. Does that even make any sense? Set before, beforehand. So this week, actually, I've noticed that I haven't had to, or maybe the predetermined outfits have helped me. I tend to stick to like baggier things and looser things because I don't like to feel constricted. That's what makes me feel not only physically uncomfortable, but mentally like uncomfortable during this time. But I've been feeling okay actually this week. I've noticed that maybe the baggy outfits and the predetermined things have helped me, because I've noticed I haven't experienced too much of the blah feeling, the too much of the staring in the mirror and like all the self-criticism that I usually do. I've noticed has decreased this time around. So I've been feeling okay. Now I wouldn't say I feel spectacular, but I would say I feel okay and surprisingly better than I thought I would. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, body dysmorphia for me is like something that has definitely morphed. Like, a lot of the times when we think about, at least for me, and I'd
Uh-huh.
love to hear your opinion. When I think about body dysmorphia, or like who experiences body dysmorphia, I definitely think of women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of all women. And I always think about the media and how, bless you,
Thank you.
they just sneezed.
Yes.
But I think about the media, and I think about how the media pushes this beauty standard that is not limited to, facial features, hair, but it's, a big part of that is body.
Of course.
The media, you see it in movies, you see it in porn, you see it in all across and in all different kinds of avenues of places, what women's bodies should look like, how you're beautiful, how you're sexy, and that always changes. And so because it always changes, because back when we were like younger, it was to be stick skinny,
Mm-hmm.
super 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 skinny, and right now it's the Kim K bodies is like
Mm-hmm.
what's on trend. And there was a time way back when like being fuller was considered beautiful. So
Mm-hmm.
with body beauty standards fluctuating every 10 years or so, every
Mm-hmm.
16ish years, things change up, right?
Yep.
In like fashion, and fashion
Yes.
I think has a lot to do with body perception as well.
Yes.
The fashion industry, I should say. And it's I can understand why we're never satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
We're never
Same.
satisfied. We never see ourselves as the beautiful beings that we are, because we are. And we sometimes, unfortunately, because it's being fed to us everywhere, we we can't see that those dream bodies that we think we want are
Mm-hmm.
unrealistic. Our bodies are all built so different. So it's so toxic for us to be fed this idea that if you do this, you do that, your body could look like that. And
Yeah.
sure, our bodies will change and fluctuate. There's a way that your body will look when it's thin. There's a way your body will look when it's fuller, but it's different for every person.
Of course.
And it is healthy to, and I don't think that there's like your body should look like this, your body should look like that, like that there's a standard of health as to what your body should look like when you're healthy. I think if
Mm-hmm.
you're active, I think if you eat well, if you're taking care of your body, I don't care what your body looks like, you know. So I think that's kind of like what I think about when I think of like body dysmorphia.
Okay. I definitely agree because of the changing, I guess, trends. I don't want to say that bodies aren't in trend, but yeah, like the trends around the body types, agreed. They do fluctuate. Like they have, way back when, fuller figure was in, and before then the thin figure was in again, and it just goes back and forth, and it really is it is detrimental. And I will say it's like, just development, especially because everybody has grown up with their ideal, like for us, like we mentioned, when we were growing up, the ideal was being really slim. And I also would argue that men also experience body
Oh,
dysmorphia
no, they
because
totally
they
do.
only have one ideal. With us, at least, it fluctuates. Not saying that we have the better end if they're both bad, but with us, it fluctuates. Whereas men, it's like essentially like have a six pack or die. Like that's essentially what the ideal is. There is no room for either or. And I think that it
Yeah.
just, that, I guess that you mentioned the trends around body, what body type is in at the moment or is being marketed at the moment is what's detrimental to people's like perception of themselves. And it's really interesting you say that with the whole being super slim thing, how that was in back then. That's actually something that definitely affected me when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I'd say I wasn't really aware of my body so much as a child. As a child, you really don't think about it. I never thought of myself as skinny or big. I never thought of that. It wasn't until maybe I was towards the later years of my childhood that I began to notice things, but I always just thought like sometimes like I would like, try to put on my pants or my shirt and it didn't fit. And I was like, oh, I'm just growing. The same way you grow out of shoes. That's what I used to think. And it wasn't until it was brought to my attention that I realized that my body was now different and that what I believed about my body was not what it was. Like I remember that when I started I think I started gaining some weight when I was like 10, and I got comments about it from like family members or like just strangers commenting on me, and I was like, what? I am? Or like, I was like, okay. And I was just so confused. And suddenly every time that I went to like, my dresser and pulled out a pair of pants and they didn't fit, it was no longer in my head, oh, I'm just growing out of these clothes. It was, oh, what that one thing that that person said, that's true. And that it began to be that since then, 10, 11, and then eventually moving on into like middle school and whatnot. Yeah.
Isn't it
That was the
wild?
first time I was aware. Mm-hmm.
Isn't it wild to think that sorry, isn't it wild to think that had no one said anything, you would maybe
Mm-hmm.
if nobody was telling you your body is different, maybe not ideal, that you wouldn't have noticed that your body wasn't anything but as beautiful as you thought it was. Like it was just a
Exactly.
growing body. It was your
Yeah.
body. It's not until, and I can share that experience.
Uh-huh.
I actually grew up very, 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 very skinny. I actually did not become a curvy person until I was like 23.
Uh-huh.
But I was extremely, extremely skinny. And I didn't notice that, well, not extremely, extremely skinny, but like I got comments about it a lot. And I wasn't aware of how skinny I was until people brought it to my attention constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was something to me too. I never, as a child, I also question, did you look at other people's bodies? Because at least for me as a child, I did not. Up until I became aware of my body, I was never like, my best friend is really skinny, or this friend of mine is fat, or they're like that. I never looked at anyone's body. It wasn't
I
until I looked at
definitely
mine.
I didn't start noticing people's bodies or comparing my body to others until people kept making comments about my body. Like
Uh-huh.
and people didn't, I will say people didn't treat me poorly like
Uh-huh.
all the time or treat me differently for being super skinny. But they did make comments, like a lot of really hateful remarks, calling me like anorexic and things. And I'm like, man, if you just saw me eat a plate, shh, you would not say
Yep.
that. I had a fast metabolism.
Yeah, and that was just your natural genetics. And I never had thought of people's genetics or bodies up until that moment. Like I said, like it wasn't until like I started to really think about it as, I aged from 10 up until, like I mentioned, like middle school, high school. That's when I began to notice people's bodies and being like, oh, my best friends are all skinny. And then that became the body comparison thing. And I used to think, man, and they used to eat whatever they wanted. They would have, 3 slices of pizza, and I would just sit there and think, how, like, wow, how come they're not getting those comments? How come they're not gaining weight. I wish I had the whole skinny genetics. I would always think that. And I think that was from that moment on, middle school to like that. From middle school, I can say that I began like dieting and like having that kind of mindset of like, I need to be slim or I need to be something other. Because, those who don't know me, or didn't, because we talk about people knowing us in high school and everything. Those who didn't know me at all in middle school, high school, or weren't, aware of my existence, because I was not a popular person like Daniela.
Oh God.
Yeah, like I definitely was bigger in those years. I definitely was. And there is like, I always try to tell myself it's a work in progress, but I try to tell myself there was nothing wrong with being bigger. It was just the way I felt about myself that was detrimental to me. But there was nothing wrong with being bigger. But I was significantly bigger then than I was now than I am now.
Can I ask you a
And
question?
mhm,
And this is a little bit of a personal question, okay?
yeah,
When you were younger and you were
uh-huh,
bigger, did you perceive yourself to be quote unquote fat?
I did. Oh,
Okay.
100%. 100%. Like I definitely perceive myself to be fat.
It's interesting because I knew you growing up.
Uh-huh.
I would have never called you, I mean, I would have never called anyone fat, but like I was
Uh-huh.
aware of who was, I mean, we're all aware of people's sizes, right? And
Of
like,
course.
like if people are like, like obese or something like, and when I say obese, like I mean like really obese or whatever,
Yeah.
but like people like yourself who considered themselves fat, I would have never considered yourself. I would have said your body was normal
See,
because
that
I didn't
was
think
what
my
I
body was normal. I thought that I was
mhm,
too skinny because it's interesting that you talk about how like um you wish that you had that skinny the being skinny,
mhm.
but it's like the world is never satisfied because although you were bigger, I was skinnier and people were still trying to tell me that my body was like people were I had a family member once shall remain nameless. Actually, they're no longer a family member. um
Okay.
but um
Interesting.
I won't get into that. But I had a family member come up to me once in Thanksgiving when I was like, God, was I like 12? I was like
Mhm.
12, 12,
Mhm.
13, something like that. And for me, my dad's family is here in Peru, and we're like the main family. My family, like it's like I don't know for Latino families, especially when you have families that are recently immigrating to this
Mhm.
country, you have like a main family, and they're the ones that moved here first, and they host all the parties. They have the biggest house. They're the most established. That's who
Mhm.
my family is, and my Peruvian family. And
Okay.
my mom's family, it's spread out because they all got here at the same time when they were younger. Like my mom
Mhm.
got here at 13. Anywho, so my mom, one of 15, huge family, big parties. We host as well. But so my Thanksgivings and Christmas has always been split. I
Mhm.
always go to two parties. We start at home getting things ready, and then me, my mom, and sometimes my brothers will go to her family side of the party. And then we have to come back. And in Peruvian culture, we eat late at night. And so
Interesting.
when we get back, we eat. And Peruvians also eat a lot. Like when you go to like a Chinese restaurant, for example, and
Mhm.
they have like the big plates that are meant for everyone, right? That
Mhm.
big plate is for one Peruvian.
My
That's the serving time. So
goodness.
I have always eaten a lot. Like I was skinny, but girl, I could scarf it down. Like my friends would always be like, people need to shut up because no one's seen Daniela eat, apparently. So
Mhm.
so because of that, whenever I'd go to these parties, I always had to pace myself at the first one because I knew that I knew that I had a whole meal waiting for me at home too.
Mhm.
And that I needed to eat there too, because and my mom's Mexican, my Mexican family parties, there was so many of us that we wouldn't all sit down at a table. Like it was one of
Yeah.
15, there was at least 100 of us, 70, something like that at a house party. Like,
My
and it's
goodness.
all first cousins. I don't even know my second cousins. So we
Wow.
eat whenever it's buffet style.
Mhm.
But at my dad's family, we are the first ones here. Not everyone is here. So it's really small. We do all sit down at the table. We extend a table. Like
Mm.
we sit together.
That's
So I have
beautiful.
to eat, right? And so at my mom's side of the family, I always pace myself. I didn't grab too much. Also, I'm a picky eater.
Mhm.
And I love Mexican food, but a lot of the food that would be at my family's holiday parties was very meat centered. And I do eat meat, but I don't eat a lot of meat. I don't like it.
Mhm.
I don't like it. And I don't chew well, whatever.
Mhm.
So my plate was usually pretty empty at my
Mhm.
Mexican family parties. Whereas at home, it was a lot more food that I liked, that I'm used to. So it'd be full.
Mhm.
So one time I had an uncle um, who's no longer family
Mhm.
come up to me and say, "Hey, Daniela, you should really eat more. You should really eat more. It's good for you. Food is good for you. Like
Mm.
it's good for a growing kid. Eating is healthy. Like he was just giving me this whole thing about how I should start eating.
Ooh,
And I was sitting there starting to have an anxiety attack. And I'm a crybaby. I was the kid that at school, if the teacher yelled at me or anything like that, which they didn't do hardly ever, I would
of
immediately start
course.
crying in front of everybody. And so I was sitting there like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And I was old enough to understand that he was implying that I'm anorexic.
Yes.
And I remember he walked away and I started crying. And I felt so awful because I was just like, I can't say anything because you're not going to believe me. Like if I tell you I have more food at home, or I have more food to eat
Yeah.
later, like, or I just don't like this food. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
always felt very misunderstood when it came to, and food is a whole nother topic, but that
Of
was like
course.
one of the first times that I became extremely aware of of how people perceived me, because I was so skinny that they thought I didn't eat. And they're like, eat, it's good for you.
Oof.
And I remember I just felt so crap because I was like, you don't even understand. Like, I eat so much. I'm not this skinny by choice. And that was like the beginning of a little bit of a toxic cycle with food for me, to be honest. And it
Mm-hmm.
was healthy in the sense of my relationship with food.
Yay. I will say definitely that there's always room for improvement with the relationship with food, at least on my end, because it tends to fluctuate for me as well. I've also grew up as like a picky eater, and I never see what's interesting is that you got those comments and it is essentially what makes you feel like crying and everything. I don't think it makes you a crybaby or anything like that. It's just what makes you feel like crying is the negative attention. It is negative attention. It's not anything that's like positive. And of course, maybe that family member meant to like I don't know, try to encourage you, or maybe he thought he was doing the right thing, but regardless of the intention, it was negative attention, and it made it seem like it made you feel bad. And so I think that's something too. I never, as you eat a little
Excuse
piece of
me
the
while
cookie.
I eat my feelings.
But yeah, I will say that with me, I was always a picky eater. I ate very little as well. And that was just something that was just part of my childhood. Sometimes kids have a hard time eating. I was, in case y'all wondering, I was one of those Pediasure kids. Definitely, I had trouble eating. I was very picky, and I was one of those Pediasure kids.
I
And
didn't
so
know that.
yeah, I was a Pediasure kid because I didn't eat when I wasn't really good with my nutrition and whatnot. So, but regardless, when I developed all my like weight issues and everything, I will say that I think, and like a dark thought, a dark twist to that, those issues, those picky eating issues, always saved me from those kind of comments, because had I had I guess a healthier appetite, which unfortunately is the case for most people, like it's not. I would say for me, I knew because I've always struggled with eating and nutrition, right? So I know that my eating habits are not what's regular, right? What's not what the norm is, and like I try to work on that. But a regular healthy appetite, if and just a regular healthy appetite and being a bigger person, people criticize that. And because I didn't have a regular appetite, I was able to not get those criticisms because I was picky. So if I didn't like anything at the family parties and I just sat down with a salad, I guess that was like approving. I guess that was what they wanted me to do. That was not the reason I was doing it, but that's what saved me. And that kind of like sucks because had I just decided to indulge, I would have came under fire for like, oh, you should eat less. Why are you eating like that? Maybe because you eat like that, you look like this. And so it is terrible. It's terrible when people comment on your food choices and everything. And
Because it only adds to the problem, because that was
it
only the
definitely does.
first of many comments that was like, you should eat, you should eat, you should
Mhm.
eat. I got it from other family members as well,
Mhm.
who I know that when they said it, they meant well.
Mhm.
They didn't mean to hurt my feelings. I'm
Of
well aware of
course.
that, but that's not something you say to a child. Oh
It's not.
my God.
Mhm.
Like, you don't know
Wildly
what's going
inappropriate.
on. Like, that's my thing, guys. Like, really think about the weight of your words. And
Mhm.
I understand that we have the best intentions, and we make mistakes. It happens.
Of course.
But you don't know what's going on inside of someone's head. And
Also in regards to children.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
was a child, and I got it from family members, but I also got it from friends, and it developed into some like really bad eating habits when I got later on in high school.
And I will say, yeah, for me, like I mentioned, my dieting started in middle school. I was never able to stick to a diet or nothing like that. Because like you will say this hashtag Latin households. I don't know about y'all, but we're not really allowed to diet even if we want to. Because which I guess saved me too. I wasn't really like at least not
I
from
have
my
to
house.
beg to differ. My
Yeah.
home is the pillar of like healthy eating and dieting. I didn't grow up with chips. I didn't grow up with chips or candy in my house. My mom is she eats very very healthy, and we tend to as well. We do eat
Yeah.
some crap, but I like to eat some crap, but
Yeah.
I definitely dieting was a little encouraged in my home specifically.
Okay. For me, I'd say definitely because my family tended to be more working class, and so if sometimes
Yeah.
if buying like Chinese food is like, like it's gonna save us a couple of time because my parents would get home late from work, would save us on some time and save us on some money. Sure, whatever. Let's get Chinese food. So we used to eat out sometimes and everything, and that's kind of like how the custom was. My grandma did because she was the person who cooked in my household, and she did cook really well. She cooked really well, and we did used to eat her food sometimes too that she would make and everything. But like I mentioned, like it's definitely
Mhm.
with my dieting or whatnot, I was always trying to do. It was kind of seen as like strange to my parents, especially as like we would eat and everything, and then all it seemed like a strange behavior. But I think that my parents have always been people who are kind of like, maybe like she's trying something new, I guess maybe we should just let her. I guess that was like their prerogative on that.
Mhm.
Because when I would just prepare myself this sad little salad that I was going to have in high school for dinner, and they were eating my grandma's cooking or anything like that, they would be like, that's all you're gonna eat? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna eat this, I'm trying to eat healthy. And they'd be like, okay. But I can tell that they thought it was strange. But to me, one of the things that led to like my toxic relationship with food was that I could never help myself. There was snacks in my house. Not to say that we were like a snackless house. Like it's a mad joke about my mom not buying us snacks. She did not good. Like in my head, I was like, oh, they're not that good like the Nielas, but she did buy us snacks. Because my grandma, although diabetic, she spoiled us as kids. She bought us candy. And she made both me and my brother, huge people who have like a sweet tooth. We love sweet things. So my grandma put that, even though she was diabetic, and she occasionally liked her own like sweet treat, like once in a while. And so she put that on us. And so we used to be like, oh, I want some candy. So my mom used to have some candy. And so the thing is that I would eat my little sad salad for dinner, right? And then later,
I love that sad salad.
the sad salad, yeah.
That's how I feel about salads. I know some people are going to be like, salads are great and all this stuff. And you know what? To each their own.
Hmm.
If you like salads, you found some salads that rock for you, dope. You ain't going to see me spending a dime on a salad.
Some salads are good, I will say that. But the ones that I was making at my house were literally just straight up lettuce with maybe a little bit of tomato. It was a sad salad. So I would eat my sad salad and I would go later, like at 10 p.m. I would leave my room, go to the kitchen, open up a bag of chips or like eat the chocolate that was in the drawer, and then I'd go to bed and I'd hate myself. I'd be like, what was the point of eating the salad? So it started a really bad cycle for me with food, dieting, and exercise through high school and middle school and everything. This is at its peak in high school because I can honestly say that every year moving forward from 14 and on, as of I think maybe recently I broke that cycle. My New Year's resolution every year was to lose weight, no matter what size I was at. That was always my New Year's resolution. I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight, even if it's just 10 pounds, 5 pounds. I had this thing every year.
Actually, that's
And
a
so
lot of people's resolutions.
it is.
I'm not
It
going to
is.
sit here on my high horse and act like, oh, I don't want that. Like, I love my body. I do love my
Mhm.
body, but it is something I think about sometimes. Like, oh, I'd like to lose a little bit more weight, and I try to justify it. This year, I did that. I was like, oh, I should lose some more weight for dance, right? And I try to justify it with that. It's not because I don't like my body. It's
Mhm.
for dance, and I definitely struggled with it because I was like, if I lose weight for dance, am I saying I don't like my body?
Mhm.
What is that saying about myself? Like, but yeah, like a lot of people have that too, which is very sad.
It definitely is. And again, apologize, guys. This is the fidget hour. My leg fell asleep, so I needed to move my leg. All
Oh,
right.
no.
I tend to fidget so much, and I'm like, why do I set up so many complicated things around me so that I can't move my legs? Anywho, so and I gotta wait for my leg to wake up. But anywho, so yeah, like agreed. It would definitely, yeah, like you said, it's a very common thing, and it's a very normalized thing to have that New Year resolution because I saw it in a magazine. I saw it in a magazine that it was like someone's New Year's resolution is to lose weight, and I was like, that's a good idea. And I started to have, that was my New Year's resolution moving forward, and just led to a lot of miserable times in my life throughout high school. I was very, very insecure. My perception of my body and my weight and everything really stopped me from doing a lot of things. It stopped me from making friends. It stopped me from being who I am. A lot of people always tell me nowadays, wow, you're so different. No, guys, I was this person always. I really was. I just was afraid to be so loud or to be seen, because
Yeah.
I thought that I needed to be as quiet as a mouse, because the quieter I was, nobody would see me. Nobody would see this person who I thought was fat, and I was like, I don't want nobody to see me. I don't want to draw any attention to myself. If I have to not be as talkative as I usually am, I'll just talk at home. Like, I literally was so quiet.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
definitely I didn't know that you were so talkative until we became friends.
yes,
Um,
it is a
it's
character
because we're
trait.
trying to fit into how society thinks we should be
Mm-hmm.
because of whatever we look or our interests, like what that
Exactly.
bubble is. And like as we grow older, like, like I also am very different. I always think no one, it's funny that you always think that no one's going to recognize you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I always think no one will recognize me because I also
Mm-hmm.
look very different.
Mm-hmm.
I have colored hair. I've gained weight. I also like I'm very, very different from the girl that was in high school. I am still her. Her essence is here, but I'm a completely different person too.
Yeah, that definitely, yeah, agreed. So like, I'm very different, I guess I'd say. No, not very different. I seem very different, but I was always this person. All my close friends are like, you were this person. I'm like, yeah, to people who got to know me. As I mentioned, my weight really stopped me from being who I really wanted to be. And I used to, I was a really, it was a really dark time in high school. At its peak, I think maybe my senior year, I can't lie to you guys. And this is terrible. I realized, yeah, it's okay. I realize this is like a triggering thought to put out, and I just will, like, full disclaimer: we are talking about some triggering thoughts here and putting them in words. So I just want to issue that disclaimer to anyone listening. What I'm about to say is a very triggering thing, that a triggering thought that might trigger people, and I used to think this often. But anywho, so just this is a disclaimer. So, I remember I used to literally wake up every morning, and the first thought I had in my head was, man, I wish I was skinny like my friends. I wish I was skinny like so and so, so that I could be normal, quote unquote, so that I could have a normal life, so that I could have boyfriends and friends and join all of these clubs and be who I want to be. That pause is because, guys, I was like, whoa, something's coming forward. And I was like, this is not the time. Sorry,
No,
guys.
first of all,
Yeah. Mm.
this is a difficult topic for us to talk about. And I want to I was going to say this at the end, but I want to thank you for being open to talking about this because I know this is really hard for you. It's hard for me too. But like there's so much bravery in talking about our experiences. So whatever needs to come forward, WAF is a safe space to
Mm-hmm.
talk about difficult topics. We're having conversation here. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's just experience, there's just living, and there's authenticity here. And I knew this was going to make me emotional to talk about.
But
When
I said I knew you were gonna cry. I was like, oh my goodness, no.
guys, this is the rare sighting. The rare sighting. Bay is crying a little bit.
It is.
That's
Yeah,
okay
I know.
because tears are human. Tears are
They
human.
are.
Tears are
They
normal.
are. Mhm.
Yeah.
I had to get some chai to calm myself down. Being like the baby with the bottle. I have a little bit of chai to feel comfort. So okay, we're back now, people. So yes, that was a very toxic thought that I had literally every single day of my life senior year, and I was like, whoa, this is getting out of control. And again, like I mentioned, to me, I used to have a lot of dark thoughts about myself. I never had at the time, I used to rationalize it as, you don't have the self-control to diet. You don't have the self-control to be thin, to exercise, right? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this also gave me a bad cycle with exercising. I would start weeks of exercising, and then I'd be like, yes, I'm doing it, I'm losing weight. And then I'd fall off, and then I'd hate myself, and then it'd start to cycle all over again. So it was terrible. But fast forward into like adulthood, I remember that I started community college, and that was a positive change for me. It's really interesting because I think getting out of my head and getting out of what people perceived me as allowed me to be more myself, because I made friends with Daniela, as you guys have heard in our previous podcast. In our first podcast, I made friends with her there. And I remember that, like, it just came naturally. My personality just came out naturally. I made other friends there, and my personality just came out naturally. And I was able to be myself. And that weight thing, that whole like, oh, I need to be not draw any attention, slowly started to fade as I let myself shine forward. I began to like, oh, this is another huge thing too, as like a fashion person, loving outfits and, you know, makeup and just in general, fashion. I remember that was a huge stop in how I dressed in high school. Like it was a huge thing that stopped me from wearing what I wanted to, from expressing myself. It was more around that, you know, that marketing strategy people have is, oh, wear clothes that are flattering. This is what's flattering. If you are big, don't even think about wearing color or white. Wear black. That was literally that was me. I was like, okay, I can't wear this. I can't wear that. I can't wear this. That was like my list. And that's how I based my outfits or what I used to wear around that list. And it was so constricting because it sucks. As someone who loved clothes and everything, I used to think, oh, if I had this body, I'd dress like this. Oh, so I was really big on drawing at that time. And, you know, in high school, I used to draw a lot. I would draw my ideal. I would draw my ideal body, and the clothes I wish I could wear, I'd draw them on my ideal. So yeah. I remember that drawing maybe holds that little bit of that. Um, I guess that to me. I guess that's probably maybe why I stopped drawing. But anywho, moving on forward, yeah, I ended up signing up for this class at City College, which was like essentially use the gym for free. That was pretty cool.
That was so much
It was
fun.
cool.
We
It was so much
became
fun.
gym buddies, and like
Yeah.
you're the only person that I can gym buddy with, because
Hmm.
I tried doing it with like my ex-husband. I hated it so much because you and I, this is actually how Chais and Chisme, because we
Yes.
would just cheese me out all of the gym time. We would sit there
Yes.
and I would like lead us in what we were doing because I've
Mhm.
always been extremely active.
Yeah. I would say this too. I will say this, guys. Get you a gym buddy who makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, actually,
If
I'm
you
gonna take that back. You're not the only gym buddy that I have. Shout out to my best friend Adriana. I've gone to the gym with her, and I'm able to cheese me out with her. That's really fun. We
Yes.
just our schedules collide, so you and I have been the only ones that've been able to work it out.
Yes.
Work it out.
Gym, but I know you're my only gym buddy because again, we talk about working out and being very personal. Working out to me was always very personal because, like I mentioned, it was a weight thing, and I was like, oh my god, I have to wear clothes that expose my weight, you know, and that was a big deal for me. But I said, we'll get you a gym buddy that makes you feel comfortable. I always felt comfortable with you, and I always felt like I never felt like, oh god, look at her lifting all these things, and I'm over here struggling behind. No, you know, we always cheese me out, and took the pressure off of that. We'd sit literally on the machine, guys, and like talk. I always felt bad for waiting for the machines. We'd sit on the machines and
It's not
talk
like
and
we
like do
weren't
things.
doing anything. We would talk
Yeah.
while we were doing our reps too.
I remember had a huge love for like cardio, and this time I really got into it. I got into the working out thing. I would run on the weekends, and yes, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to act like I was on some high horse and was like, oh, my weight loss was just separate. Nah, I was getting some kind of gratification on the fact that I was like losing weight, and I did make myself for lunch a lot of sad salads. This time period, although good for me, also had some bad in it. I got into toxic working out schedules, and I was like, I have to be like, you know, working out every single day. I couldn't take a break. I would run on Saturday mornings. I was off from school and off from the gym. I'd get up early and run laps around my block because I was like, you can't undo the work, God forbid. So it also was a little toxic, but at the same time, I saw a lot of progress, and it gratified me in a way. And I think because I genuinely enjoyed parts of it. It's very complicated. Sometimes
Yeah.
fitness journeys are not always great, are not always just the good, and they're not always just bad. Mine was very mixed. I saw a lot of good, saw a lot of bad too.
Yeah, it's like there's the good in the way that exercise makes you feel. It does make you feel
Hmm.
good. If you're doing a kind of exercise that you like. Not
Exactly.
every exercise format is for everyone. It should feel fun, right?
Hmm.
And but there is bad in the sense that like if you're exercising, my opinion, if you're
Hmm.
exercising to lose weight, the toxicity will start when you stop exercising because then
Hmm.
you start shaming yourself for not being on it.
Yes. Yep. Yep. That happened. That's what happened.
Especially when it starts to reflect in your body, you know.
Uh-huh. That's what happened to me. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, that's actually what you were talking about earlier on, is that you shame yourself for not, for not being as active, because that was me. Again, I couldn't take a day off. My day off was Sunday. But I used to on Saturdays, even though I knew I was not going to eat my sad salads because I was home all day. And I was not, again, the self-control thing in my head that I put myself, that I was like, oh, you don't have any self-control. So at the self-control, BS that I put in my head, I thought, okay, well, at least what we can do is counteract it by running 1,000 laps in the morning. That's what I would do. And yes, I did enjoy running, but I'm not going to, sit here and say that it did not have them. It was not motivated by the fact that I needed to maintain, and that was bad. So, eventually, what ended up happening, much to well, this was a good time, progressively, because I was always like, oh, I can see myself getting stronger, not physically stronger, but I saw myself being like more comfortable in myself. I didn't notice the moment when I lost the weight. I just started noticing like my clothes fit different. My God, I think I'm losing weight. I never noticed it up until a day that I randomly did. And then, yeah, I remember that I also saw myself getting faster. I would have to run for the bus. These are the days that I always took the bus, and the bus was always running late. So I would always be like, oh my God, I gotta run after the bus. And I would run after the bus, and I wasn't as winded. And I'd be like, I'm getting faster. Like, wow, something's happening. And I had a lot of gratification from that. But on one of those summer breaks that was between the semesters, I wasn't going to be able to use the gym because, summer. And I was like, no, what am I going to do? I'm going to, the guilt. I'm going to gain the weight. I'm not going to be working out. I have no self-control unless I am going to a gym. I can't, stick to a workout schedule. So I signed up for a swim class. Spoiler alert, guys, I didn't learn how to swim. I was afraid. Swimming is a mental thing. I didn't take that into account. I was too scared to learn. I wasted that whole summer. So I did not learn how to swim, and part of me thought, oh my God, that's the way I'm going to stay in shape. But then, well, much to my dismay, I ended up getting sick that summer. I had a lot. I still don't know what happened that summer, and I still like think about it and like ruminate. And I had a lot of like, I don't know what happened. I think what I'd round it off to nowadays is that I think I had like an eating disorder that stemmed from anxiety. I didn't have an eating disorder due to my weight issues, at least not that I can make an actual clear connection to. But I definitely had one because of anxiety. I was very anxious for, I don't know why. I don't know what. My life essentially at this moment was good, quote unquote, right? It was good. And I had a lot of anxiety. And it caused me to have, it caused me my bad eating habits, like I mentioned. I already have bad eating habits, not unrelated to weight, just in general, my poor nutrition as a kid. I just had bad eating habits. It only heightened those. And it made me have really bad eating habits. I was always anxious. I couldn't eat. When I'm anxious, I can't eat. I stopped eating. And that's when I saw something happen that I was like, oh, that's why people do this. When I was not unable to eat, I wanted to eat, but I was unable to eat because of my anxiety. I saw the weight come off quicker than it did at the gym. Quicker. I dropped weight in a month. I dropped like 5 pounds, eventually turned to 10. I reached my ideal quote unquote weight that I wanted to in the semester, the coming one that I was going to keep going back to the gym. I reached my ideal weight in that summer, but I was not happy. I was so miserable because I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat. And I was like, my God, I'm at the ideal weight, but I'm miserable because I can't eat. My body will not let me eat because I'm too anxious. My stomach is clenching up. And now I'm at this ideal weight, but I don't feel like, wow, great. And also, I lost, I lost like muscle mass then too. I don't know if that even makes sense. Anyone medical students that are listening are probably like, what?
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
because
know.
if you weren't very active,
Yeah.
it's going to reduce.
Exactly. It was like the kind of weight you lose when you are sick. Just to sum it up to you guys, it's not the kind of weight that you lose when you're like, trying to be active and like lose weight like I was earlier. It was the kind of weight you lose when you're sick. And I got sick, and I remember that I lost a lot of weight, and the changes that I saw in my body only disappointed me, because then in my head, now the body dysmorphia had morphed. Now I was in my head, I was like, oh, you lost weight, but you're still not the quote unquote right kind of skinny. Now you're sickly skinny. You're not like fashion skinny. You're not this normal skinny. Now you're sick skinny. Now you look like like someone that's been in the hospital. And I used to always have that in my head, that I'd be like, "Oh, you're hospital skinny. You look like you like got released from the hospital." And I used to shame myself for that also. And that led to a whole other toxic mindset developing. Because yeah, now then we move into present day. Now, I eventually managed to turn that around and get somewhat better from that, and I'm still recovering from that. It's been so many years, and it's crazy to me that I think it's just the presence of anxiety and everything is just what has caused that block. But yeah, I realized that, like, I when I'm moving forward, I realized that it's like I lost the weight, and yes, while being sick and also by working out and doing all that, I lost the weight with a whole combination of methods and everything. And I realized what I didn't lose was that toxic mindset, because as you guys just heard, the mindset morphed. The mindset now was no longer you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. The mindset morphed to something else. Now it was like, you lost the weight, but you still are not good enough. You still are not where you want to be. You still have X, Y, and Z. Look at your body. You look, it was still there. And that's what I realized. That's what made me realize that thing that I thought I used to have every day in high school of I wish I was skinny and da 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 was not reality. Because essentially people would think that I attained everything I wanted then, but I didn't attain the happiness or the feeling of like gratification that I
It
thought I
didn't
would.
come with all the feelings you thought that it would. It
Exactly.
didn't make you happy the way that
Mm-hmm.
you thought that it had the power to make you happy. Because
Exactly.
the truth is that only we can make ourselves happy. Having
Mm-hmm.
things, these goals and whatever, yeah, they're great, and there's some gratification there, but if you attach happiness to something,
Yes.
it's never going to make you happy, because we live in a society where we want more, we want more, we want more,
Uh-huh.
and we're never happy, we're never good enough, it's never enough. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like a really big thing with body dysmorphia too.
Yeah, agree. And then that's what causes me to struggle with body dysmorphia to this day. Like, it's all this whole transformation in my body went through. It still causes this huge like challenge for me that I face, like, every day, every week. I would say some days I have good weeks, sometimes I have, bad weeks, sometimes I have good days, bad days. But I still struggle with it because I realize that what I didn't put work and effort into was changing up here, was changing what the thought was here and not the physical. I really did believe that the physical would bring me happiness, but it did not. And that's like, where we're at. And I've been trying really hard to like, you know, give, be kind to myself and give myself that kind of self-love. Yeah.
I always think, and I
Uh-huh.
wrote this down because I wanted to make sure that I didn't
Yes.
forget, but I always think, because I always tell you this, you hear this
Uh-huh.
all the time, but I feel this way about everyone. I always wish, like, I always jokingly tell Vay, like, girl, you need to like go get your eyes checked. You need some new eyes, because like, we're very mean to ourselves, and we don't think that we are as beautiful as we think, as we truly all are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, I wish that people could see themselves through my eyes or through
Mm-hmm.
someone else's eyes, because I don't see all of the things that you see about yourself. I see someone who is so beautiful. And I always
Oh,
find it so
thank
funny,
you.
because what I have, you want, and what you have, I want. Like, there are
Yes.
things about your body that I'm like, dude, like the things that you're insecure about that I won't name, because those are, those are to you,
Uh-huh.
and maybe that's a topic that we talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
There are things about your body that you're insecure about that I'm like, are you kidding me? I wish I had that. I don't have that. And then I'll be complaining about something. You're like, are you kidding me? I wish I had that. Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
sitting here comparing ourselves and whatever, but I'm like, I think that you are so beautiful. You
Thank
always
you.
have been, but your beauty radiates harder now because you've come into yourself more.
Yeah,
As
thank you.
as as Jennifer starts to crack away from being quiet, right?
Yeah.
And for those who are listening to us, I just pretended like I was in a little chickie hatching from an egg.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love that. A baby chick. Ooh, I have a story
Yeah.
with baby
So
chick.
we you radiate this, like, this beauty, but also your body is beautiful.
Thank
It's
you.
so beautiful. And you want to know why? It's because
Mhm.
it's your body. Nobody
Yeah.
else has a body like yours. And that's, in my opinion, that's so amazing.
I think so. It is like you mentioned, affirming to hear that, and I think like it is good, and like just for I guess that's probably a tip that I would like that I would give to people is that hearing people say this as well. Not only is it great for you have someone else say it to you, because it is great. It is gratifying when you say this, and other people say these kind of things to me. I'm always like, okay, it's all in my head. It just affirms
Oh,
that it's all
no,
in my
but
head.
I also
But
want to make sure that y'all understand, it's not to dismiss your
of course.
personal experience,
Oh
because
no, no,
that's
no,
so
of course not.
personal to you.
Yeah.
More to say, like, you are beautiful. And
Yeah.
hopefully one day you'll fully believe it. I just
And
try to
thank
keep saying
you.
it until you
Yeah,
believe
I
it.
know, and I think that is really helpful. I would say it's really helpful to people who always say this to me. It's helpful because it helps me practice saying it to myself. And it helps me, when you hear it from somebody else, it kind of gives you like the blueprint of when you say it to yourself. And
Mhm.
one day I will get there. And like I said, like to you too, like I always think that like I wish you could see yourself from my eyes too, because you're always like, I love seeing your dance videos and everything. And I know sometimes there are some like insecurities that come forth, whenever you post your dance videos. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I see the dance. I see the creativity. I see the talent. Guys, I'm over here simping again. This is just who I am. But yeah, like I see the talent. I see the creativity. I do not see not to dismiss your thought process either, but like I do not see the insecurities. That is not where my mind initially goes. I'm not like, look at this. Not at all. Like I see what you want, I guess what you would hope people get from your dance videos and from your videos in general. And that's, I think, another thing that I learned recently is that to give compliments not on people's bodies, but like you meant, the energy that they give, their essence, like it's their beauty outside of their body. Because yeah, there is so much. Your body is beautiful, but that is not all that there is to you. There
Mhm.
is so much more to you. And there's like a whole simping, guys. It's the simping hour. There is so much more to you that is outside of your body. And I realized that because back then the kind of compliments that I did give was, oh, you're so skinny. I wish I was that skinny.
Mhm.
I used to give those kind of compliments, guys. I'm not gonna get on my high horse.
Mhm.
But I learned to take away the importance of body and skinny and weight. You have to take that away from the good as well.
Yeah.
So you are beautiful. Your body is beautiful, but you are a beautiful person in general.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now my story is very
Yes.
different from
Uh
your
huh.
story. As I mentioned, I grew up very, very, very skinny. I was really skinny. Um, Not in like a concerning rate. I remember going to the doctor and I was always underweight. I was never like what I should be. Um, I didn't look like sticks and stones. Like those are my bones. Like
I love
but I
that.
was very, or at least in my eyes, I didn't
Uh
feel
huh.
like I looked that way because I didn't think I was skinny enough sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I also I didn't hate my body until people kept hating on my body. I
Mm.
used to get a lot of hate, like you should gain weight, you should eat this, you should do that, or like eating is good for you. I used to get that a lot. And I was just like I can't. And I remember the comments, they really got to me. And my freshman year of high school, was really hard. This was the year that I became depressed.
Sorry,
And
guys.
it's also the first time I was ever suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot going on, and part of it was the body dysmorphia that came forward.
Mm-hmm.
I tried really hard to gain weight my first semester of freshman year.
Oh
I
my
was
goodness.
tired of people calling me anorexic and hearing comments behind my back and things like that, and
Uh
people
huh.
just hate on me. And so I tried really hard. I ate so bad because at home we didn't really eat really bad. Again, I didn't grow up with chips and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are very health conscious, and it has to do with the fact that like I was the only skinny one in my household, growing up. Like, like
Okay.
my brothers were a little bit on the fuller side.
Uh huh.
My older brother has a thyroid issue, so he's always been a bit on the heavier side.
Uh huh.
So I was the only skinny one, but so we were very health conscious to
Mm-hmm.
help my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And also just because my mom she just likes healthy food. But anywho, I tried really hard to gain weight. I ate a lot of crap, a lot of junk. I used to never eat French fries because I just didn't like them. I
Mm.
started eating that. I used to never really eat fast food because we didn't eat fast food. I
Uh
started
huh.
eating that. I tried really hard, and let me tell you, I didn't gain a damn pound. My metabolism was just too fast, like because I've
Mm-hmm.
always been very active, very, very active. I'm not a runner anymore, but I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a dancer. I love, love, love to dance. I used to play volleyball. I have a pool. I swim. I used to go
Mm-hmm.
bike riding on the weekends. Like I've always been. My dad was a soccer player growing up, so like we're a very active household.
You're
And
very energetic, so that makes
yeah, and
perfect sense.
I
The
have my
energy has to go
dad's
somewhere.
genetics as far as like, he
Mm-hmm.
grew up very skinny too. I look just
Mm-hmm.
like my dad, to be honest. Or actually, my dad looks just like me. But yeah, so I tried to gain weight. It did not work. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. And so I think I tried for like the whole first semester. And then I was like, well, okay, whatever. I guess I'm just going to have to deal with the fact that people think I'm anorexic. And then it
Oh.
morphed, right? Like body dysmorphia morphs, right? And as my body developed, a lot of women have this little like, so this is like your belly, you want it to be flat, right? But below
Yeah.
the belly button, a lot of women have like a little bit of a curve.
That's me.
And I
Yeah.
worked really hard to try to get that down. I remember at the end of high school because I was just like, why won't it go away? And then I found out, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, don't correct me if I'm wrong because I need to think this so that I can feel good about it, to be honest. But I remember learning that somebody said, I remember they were like, oh, you know why your belly does that? And we were all like, why? And they're like, because it means that your body is ready to carry a child now. Like apparently it's the way that your uterus or whatever.
I believe I read that. Yeah, that it's
I've
like
heard that.
some
I don't
people's
know if it's
uteruses is
true. I don't
tilted or
want to know if
something.
it's not true because it helped me come to terms with that part of my
Of
body.
course.
So
Same.
if you discredit me, that comment's getting deleted.
Yes.
But
Don't comment it below, guys.
yeah,
I'm
but
gonna delete
anywho, yeah. So I felt really bad about that, but then I was always underweight in high school. I was pretty skinny. I'm also short. I'm only 5'2", so there's like only so much, right? And then after high school, I started slowly gaining weight. I went through like my second wave of puberty, let's call it, because my breasts got larger and I started filling out a little bit, but not. I was gaining weight extremely slowly, extremely slowly. I was actually starting to really like my body because again, I thought I was too skinny, right? So I slowly started gaining weight and I was like, oh my God, finally, like I was happy about it. I was actually pretty happy about it. And then me and her started going to the gym. And then when that stopped, I worked at a few fitness centers. And so I was very active because I had free access to those fitness centers. And so I got really, really fit. I got a butt for the first time in my life because my family used to joke that I had no butt. Like I didn't have a flat butt, but my butt was very small.
All booties matter. Small booties matter too.
Small booties matter too. Anywho, I started getting a butt and I started dancing bachata, and in the bachata community, it's like, oh, you got that bachata booty because every like supposedly, all the like bachateras have booties because we're like bachata is very grounded, so you're squatting the whole time, like you're in somewhat of a squat position. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm getting the bachata booty. Like I was like really happy about that, right? I was like 21. And then my body dysmorphia and the gain weight started because when I was 21 years old, I got raped. And I got raped by someone I didn't know. I was kidnapped and raped, and it was awful. And I remember the experience was awful because I got back to my friends and we had to get to the airport immediately, and I was crying and I
Oh,
was
goodness.
throwing up because I don't know what the hell got put into my drink and whatever. And so I was throwing up in the taxi and I was crying, and my friends couldn't find me, and so they called my family, my ex. Everyone was looking for me. So when I was found, everyone had to find out that I got raped. I was taken immediately to the ER, had to have a rape kit done. It was an awful experience.
Horrifying.
I paused dance for a month.
Yeah.
I had to, I got into a car accident right after that because I had a crappy job that made me go to work, even though the doctor gave me a letter to not. And they were like, I don't give a fuck, come to work, essentially.
Oh
I got into
no.
a car accident. It was an awful experience. And I remember my body dysmorphia switched. And I said, if you didn't look as beautiful as you looked, maybe you wouldn't have gotten raped.
Oof.
And so everybody wanted me to move on. Everyone was like, get over it. Like, you got raped, so what? Like, that's the way they were treating me. Nobody actually said that, but everybody with the exception of you was very much like, you need to move on. And so I shoveled that shit. And I remember I recently came to terms with this. I recently remembered that I had actually gained weight on purpose. I wanted to not be beautiful anymore because when I was 21, when I started to reach that ideal body that I thought I had, I actually thought I was so beautiful. I was really happy with my body for once. And it wasn't because I was trying to have that body. It just naturally kind of happened, right? And so I tried to gain weight. But then I got really depressed. And then let's see what happened. I started working a 9 to 5 and I was sitting more. I wasn't dancing as much. I wasn't going out as much. I started eating my feelings. I became suicidal. for the
Mhm.
second time in my life. And the problem was that sometimes I would be in the kitchen and I would, trigger warnings to anybody who's had suicidal thoughts. Feel
Yes.
free to forward through a little bit if you don't want to hear this part, but I'd be in the kitchen and the knives would be there. And I would look at the knives and I wanted to kill myself. And in the cabinet, there was a bottle, or not a bottle, a jar of Nutella. And my mind was like, eat the Nutella, eat the Nutella, you're gonna feel better. You're gonna feel so much better. So I started gaining weight because
Mhm.
what stopped me from committing suicide was I'd eat my feelings. Um,
Mhm.
and I gained, I'm not going to talk about how much I weighed the beginning at the end because I
Of
don't want to
course.
talk about the number, but I am going to talk about how much I gained in the span of like 4 6 months. I gained 40 pounds in that
Mhm.
short time because I was struggling. I was struggling really hard. And I remember the moment I realized it. I knew I was gaining weight, but the
Mhm.
moment that I realized it was I remember one day looking in the mirror and I was wearing shorts and my thighs looked different. They they weren't shaped smoothly down. There was
Mhm.
a lot of like cellulite, and when I closed my legs, this like fat came forward that I'd never seen on myself. I'd seen on other people, but I'd never seen on myself. And I was like, "Oh." And then I continued to look up and I saw the way that my midsection hung over the shorts, and I
Mhm.
saw how large my breasts had gotten and the fat on my arms and the double chin. And I remember being like, oh, we're fat. Shit. How did this happen? And I was in therapy at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I remember, or actually, no, I got into therapy afterwards. No, yeah,
Mhm.
I was in therapy actually at the time that I saw this.
Okay.
And I remember that, you know, my therapy, because I was, by the time I was, as soon as I became suicidal, boom, I went to therapy. I was like, I don't actually want to die, but like I keep thinking I want to die.
Yes.
And so my therapist, she was like, listen, we will work on your eating stuff, but if you are between I want to kill myself or I want to have some Nutella, have the Nutella.
Yeah.
Have the Nutella. So yeah, I eat my feelings. I eat my feelings, but I much rather eat my feelings and gain weight than kill myself. And unfortunately, we're getting really real. um
Yeah.
I'm in that point again in my life. I have had some suicide tendencies um,
Mhm.
in this last month,
Mhm.
and I am eating my feelings again. But I don't feel bad about it anymore, and I am gaining a little bit of weight. But you know what? I love my body.
Mhm.
My body is trying to take care of me, and if I'm gonna eat and I'm gonna gain weight, I'd much rather be this curvy person than be someone 6 feet under the ground.
Exactly.
Um,
I think that's a beautiful philosophy to have. Being skinny is, and this is also like I know it's difficult. There's more layers to it, and it is not just cannot be just simplified as that. But being skinny is not worth dying over. It's not. And I mean
yeah,
that even in terms of eating disorders and everything like that, because, I experienced, my share of like eating disorders and bad mentalities and everything. And like, yeah, there's more layers to that. But I guess the overall blanket statement that always helps me is, and obviously helping you is being skinny is, or being your ideal body is not worth dying over, where you have to say, yeah, if you're no longer living, if your life is just fixated on that thought, it's not living. Yeah.
yeah. And there's obviously more layers to why
Of
I've
course.
had it's not just my body dysmorphia, but
Of
it does
course.
contribute. It does contribute.
Mhm.
Um, but anywho, I gained weight, right? I was in
Mhm.
therapy. I didn't like my body anymore. That year was hard. That year was really hard because all I could hear was all the haters in my head that had told me I was anorexic growing up. The people at school, the
Mhm.
family members. And I stopped taking pictures that year. I think this was the year of 2017.
Mhm.
2017, 2018. There are hardly any pictures on my Instagram at that time. Any pictures online were pictures taken of me dancing, not by myself. And I had
Yeah.
tagged myself in a lot of them because I,
Mm.
I looked fat. And I remember being like, I would see people from high school or whatever that I used to know on my suggested, and I wouldn't add them because I was like, oh no, they're going to be, I remember I used to hear this a lot, you know, out of high school, you would always hear about, oh, did you hear so-and-so? Yeah, this, that. We live in a small town. So I would always hear
Mhm.
people talking, and people would talk about like, oh, did you see that one skinny person? They gained weight. Like I've heard people talk about other people like that.
Mhm.
And then I was like, oh, now I'm that person.
Oh
Remember
no.
skinny Daniela? She's hella skinny. She's fat now. I used to think that. And maybe nobody would have cared. I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I used to think that a lot. And I couldn't take pictures. I was like, I'm going to, you know, all of those people who hated on me, they're probably so happy right now. Daniela finally gained weight. And guess what? She's fat, right? And I used to tell myself that a lot. And it didn't make it easier that I'm in the dance scene. I I remember when I really started to notice was I would go out dancing, right? And I stopped getting asked to dance. Not as much as I used to. I used to get asked to dance a lot. And then I would notice that I would be waiting a lot. And now I don't need to be asked to dance. Like I will go and ask people, like,
Uh-huh.
but I noticed that the amount that people would ask me declined significantly. And I started one day,
Wow.
one day I thought, what's going on? And my brain
Mhm.
was like, it's because you're fat. And I was like, no, let's not do that. So I I remember I was like, maybe you have a resting bitch face. Smile. And I smiled. And nothing. And I was like, maybe it's because you're like sitting. Maybe stand closer to the sidelines. And I stood closer to the sidelines. I remember I did this at a festival. Um, and nothing. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe people are asking people to dance while they're still on the dance floor. So you know what I would do? In between each dance, I'd start walking through to see if somebody would ask me. Nothing. Nothing. And then I went back
Heartbreaking.
to the sidelines and I was like, it can't be that. And then I looked around at who was in the sidelines. And guess what? It was a lot of curvy dancers.
Mm.
And it made me feel real crap because I was like, maybe that's not it. But what am I seeing? I'm seeing these other girls who are chill and waiting, and we're
Yeah.
not itty bitty. And a lot of the curvy dancers I know are phenomenal. They're
That was
so
my next
good.
point.
They're so good. And I used to get mad because I'd be like, some of these girls don't even know how to dance. And like, honestly, to each their own. Your journey is your journey. Wherever you are in your journey, keep dancing, right?
Yeah.
It would make me upset sometimes before. It would make me
Huh.
upset that like
They
I
missed out on phenomenal dancing by passing you up because of the way you looked. Like
yeah, or I don't know. I
phenomenal
don't know
dance.
why, but like
Who
the
knows?
fact
But
that
like,
I would go songs and like I would ask people to dance, but I would just be like, why has this decreased so much, right? And I did start getting comments of like, like um telling me that I should lose weight to be a better dancer. I did
hmm,
have people telling me that. It wasn't just something in my head.
someone actually
Someone
vocalized.
actually
Yeah.
told me. Someone actually told me. Actually, it was more than one person actually told me. And I finally let that notion go this year during the
Uh
pandemic,
huh.
but it made it very difficult. It made me discredit myself as a dancer. I stopped taking so many pictures because I felt so crap about myself, and I started weighing myself all the time. Like I started working out, like I think it was 2019,
Uh
so
huh.
the year before, I lost 25 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Well,
lost out of those 40 that I gained, I lost 25 pounds.
uh huh.
And I started to love myself again. I didn't start to love myself because of the weight. I started to love myself before that. I was severely depressed, right? And I finally was like, I'm tired. I'm freaking tired. I want
Mm-hmm.
to be happy. I want to choose me. I want to stop being afraid because I was afraid to go out because of what happened, when I was 21, when I got
Yeah.
married. I was afraid to go out by myself. I didn't trust anything or anyone. And I still struggle with that a
Uh
lot.
huh.
And I'm very guarded. And so I started doing things and I started being active again, not necessarily to lose weight. Like, well,
Mm-hmm.
yes, let's stop lying to myself. I did become active to lose weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ended up losing way more weight than not way more weight, but like I started losing weight fast. And it wasn't so much the being active, it was because I also became a competitive dancer. And so I just like, it started going, I
Yeah.
started going out more, I started going dancing more. So like the exercise itself that I would do, I don't think contributed as much as the amounts of activity that I was doing. And so
Of
I
course.
lost 25 pounds. I was really proud of myself. I was really proud of myself. And I still wasn't skinny or whatever, because I'm
Uh-huh.
not that, I think I've gained a little bit of weight. I don't know how much, but like this is kind of what that 25 pounds looked like. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
like a little less, but like, you know, and so I'm not skinny. Like I'm not, I'm curvy. I'm not like huge or anything like that. I wouldn't consider myself to be someone that's fat, but I wouldn't call myself skinny. Like I'm a
Mhm.
curvy girl, and I like that about myself now. But I really started to come to terms with myself, and I knew that I wasn't skinny when I lost that weight. But I remember what happened was at that time I also got rid of all the clothes that didn't fit me that I was holding on to because I was like, oh my God, I need to like all of this stuff, right?
That's the sound of me clapping, by the way, guys. So for those who are listening, that was me clapping at
Yeah,
that
and I
situation.
also accepted that I needed to love my body in all of its forms. And I would
Mhm.
look in the mirror and I'd say, "You are beautiful." Like I used to do that a lot, right? And it worked. It worked. I started wearing clothes that fit me regardless of what the tag said. I tried not to look at the tag. I was like, if it fits, it fits. Don't give a fuck about if it's a large, extra large. Who
Yeah.
cares? Who cares? Put it on. And I would look, it's funny. I used to fit smalls and extra smalls. I look at them and I'm like, these are tiny. That's like, how did I ever fit this? Like when I touch my bones, it's not even that wide. Like what the
Mhm.
hell? I'm so floored. Anywho, I, I started wearing stuff. The unfortunate thing is because I started losing weight so fast,
Mhm.
I had already been looking at a scale, but I started looking at it more. There was a studio that I went to that had a scale in their bathroom. And I used to go there for events that I would do. I would
Oh
go there for
no.
private lessons. Every time I went, I weighed myself on the scale. And when I was making progress,
Mhm.
it was nice. It was. When I was making progress, it was great. And I was just like, yes, another pound. Yes, 2 pounds. Unfortunately, I became like really accustomed to it. So after I got divorced, I wasn't as active for a while.
Uh-huh.
The number stopped going down. It didn't like I didn't really gain, and if I did, it wasn't a lot. Like I would fluctuate 5 pounds constantly. And but because it wouldn't go down anymore, I felt crap. I felt really crap. And anytime it would go up a pound, any confidence that I had now gained went away. This confidence that I found in loving my body, like it's funny, before I jumped on that scale, I loved the way I looked. I did.
Mhm.
And then I'd see that scale and I'd be like, oh, we gained like 2 pounds. Ah, fuck. Now we got to lose those 2 pounds and then two more because we're still trying to lose weight. Because
It almost steals the moment. It
yeah, I
steals
was like,
the
because I
moment.
want to be a successful professional dancer. So I need to
Mhm.
lose some more weight because I'd had people tell me that I couldn't do certain things, lifts and tricks wise, because of my weight. And to an
Mhm.
extent, there are certain things that maybe my weight will affect, but I'm very capable and I know what the hell I'm doing. And
Of
I'm a
course.
good learner. I sure as hell that the person that told me that was insecure about their inability to take in feedback and execute the movement. And they couldn't deal with the fact that a woman was trying to help them and instruct them, and they instead decided to minimize me and make me feel bad about my body and put the blame on me and say it's because like you need to lose weight.
And good on you for recognizing that. So
Recognizing
imagine,
that now because I did
yes.
not at the time.
Of course, and I said, and that's good to know because we talked about recognizing that that comment that was said to you was of ill intention and it was not conducive. You know how we talked about comments earlier on about how that family member tried to like was trying to encourage you and whatnot, but we can honestly say that the intention behind that was not ill, although he did hurt your feelings and it did happen.
Mhm.
It didn't seem to have any malicious intent. Whereas now it's good that you can recognize that that comment that was made to you by that person
It was ill
was
intended.
malicious intent. Their
Yeah.
intent was to hurt you. And when you put that lens on the comment, it suddenly is no longer something that is valid. There was no nothing backing that. And what was backing that was ill intention and malice.
Yeah, there it definitely was. At the time I cared for that person deeply and so I wanted to believe that they were just I don't know. I don't know.
That
I'm
it
a people
that
pleaser.
was a conducive comment. Yeah, you
Yeah.
wanted to take it as like a that they we wouldn't had no reason to believe that that was where it was coming from.
Yeah.
And I said, but it's
To
good to
be
recognize.
honest, I struggled to believe it, but the comment still hurt. I didn't
Of
believe
course.
that my weight was actually impeding. I mean, I did it and I didn't, but now looking back. Anywho, so my therapist essentially was like, "How about you don't weigh yourself anymore? How about you stop weighing yourself?"
That's
Because we were talking a lot and she was like, every time you weigh yourself, you go back. Like you don't feel well. So how about we stop weighing ourselves?
mhm.
So I have not jumped on a scale since January, December.
Wow.
I have no idea how much I weigh. I have no idea how much I may have gained or not. Oh no, that's a lie. That's a lie. I'm March, April, because I forgot. I did jump into that toxic habit a little bit when you and I started working out.
Mm-hmm. It's
But ever
hard.
since then, I decided to stop. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how much I weigh. I have no clue how much I've gained or lost. My brain right now is like, bitch, you gained. Who cares? Who cares? Because when I look in the mirror, I like what I see. And sometimes I don't, and sometimes I do. But I try to remind myself what I told myself when I turned 25 is I need to love my body in all of her stages. Because you know what? It worked. Whether I have lost weight or not or gained it, that voice that tries to tell me that I'm fat, yes, she's there, but she doesn't run very long anymore because that other voice is like, stop it. Your body is beautiful, even if you don't see it right now. And something my therapist has been advising to me is to remind me that my body is beloved and my body is trying to take care of me, especially when you're anxious or depressed, have depression. Sorry, that's what
Uh-huh.
I'm working on. Have depression. Um, your body thinks it's dying sometimes, and so it starts storing more food because it's in survival mode. So my
Mm-hmm.
body, yeah, I'm gaining weight, but my body is trying to
It's trying to
to
save you.
take care of me. So
Your
like,
body's trying to save you.
my body's trying to save me. My body's like, hey, Danielle, we're not doing so well up here, so we're gonna store this food because we're not sure if you're gonna need it later. And so whenever I have those moments of feeling fat, I try to remind myself. She had me look in front of a mirror
Mm-hmm.
and just tell my body it's beloved. And so one thing I tried a month ago was I looked in the mirror and I said, your face is beautiful. And I said, you see these arms, they're beautiful. You see these breasts that have enlarged, they're yours, they're gorgeous. The stomach that is not flat, these curves, these hips, these thighs, they're yours, they're beautiful. I just went through and told them I love you and you're beautiful. And it helps.
It's
It's hard.
beautiful.
It's hard, and I still struggle with it a lot because especially that's why I've gotten off social media a little bit more. You see me on social media a lot. I don't
Mm-hmm.
scroll a lot anymore. I literally just post shit and I'm out because I run into a lot of dancers that are very, very thin, and that mentality keeps coming forward. And that's something I need to work on because I
Mm-hmm.
keep comparing my body to theirs and being like, if only you were skinnier, maybe more people would want to, you know, be dance with you or something like that. Like that's awful. It's awful to think, but
Yes.
that's where my brain goes. My brain goes, it's because you're not skinny. And thankfully there is a beautiful community of curvy dancers. There's dancers with
Yeah.
curves. There's other gorgeous dancers who are more curvy, you know, like my director on Mi Esencia. She's beautiful, beautiful person. And this Zouk dancer here in the Bay Area, Elena the Rhinestone, is a fucking amazing person for all bodies are beautiful and curvy dancers, and she's one of those people that I saw. She's an amazing dancer. You should see the stuff that she does, that these women do, the stuff,
Wow.
Carol, Roxy, Elena, the things that they do. They're phenomenal dancers, and they are constant reminders to me that my weight does not matter. And you know what? I don't want to lose weight to be a better dancer. I want to stay the way I am. I really do. If I lose weight, cool, whatever, fuck it. But I'm not trying to lose weight for dance anymore. I can be a phenomenal dancer in this body.
That's amazing. And I will say yes. And it is, you want to surround yourself with what you would like for things that are positive. You said all these dancers that are like curvy and everything, and they're like reminders. And that is something that I'm trying to practice with myself too. Is that I tend to follow accounts because I love, I'm a lover of fashion and love to scroll on Instagram too, look at the fits and look at all the, all the outfits and all these fashion bloggers. They tend to be body types. Who that are not mine. They are not my body type. They're not even my height. I'm always like, my God, her legs look so long and yours are short and stubby. And I'm like, yeah, well, this person is 5'8". So of course their legs are long. Of course their pictures look like this. That is just how they look.
Yeah.
I'm not 5'8", guys. Spoiler alert. I'm kidding. And then y'all thought I was 5'8". I'm 5 feet. And so yeah, and like I have
We
to,
some short girls here.
we're short, we're shorties here. Yeah, and like I said, like I realized that I've been trying to also do that with my feed. As much as I love that content, I am trying to even out my feed so that I have content of people who look like me, whether that is ethnicity, whether that is hair texture like we talked about last week, whether that is skin tone, body type, just people who look a little more like me. It's been kind of a challenge to find them. So guys, if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. Please drop them below. I love to follow accounts. I love to follow
Oh
like
yeah.
influencers and bloggers who look like me, kind of. Not to
Yeah,
say that it's like twin. Yeah.
that's actually why I post, like, because she was talking about insecurities in my dance videos. I can't tell you guys how many times I've stopped myself or wanted to stop myself from posting a video because I was like, the content's great. The content is great. I love the
Mhm.
dance. It's beautiful. But bitch, you look so fat. And see in pictures, right? Like I'm the pose queen, right? My dancers are always like, you need to do a posing class. Like you're really
Me
good at
too.
posing. And I'm like, you
Me
know what?
too.
If y'all want that, I'll do that. Like, cause I love posing. I'm really good at it.
You need to have polling class.
But like I still look curvy, but there's a way to hide some of those curves, right? I'm aware of like how to, sorry, not hide, how to accentuate the body that you have is what I'm
Yeah.
going for now. Not hiding my curves, but
Yeah.
accentuating the body that I have and also allowing my fupa, my lonja, whatever to come forward because who cares? But there are many videos that I've been like, there's because in videos, there's no hiding it. Especially dancing. I'm turning, I'm moving. You can see the way that my body really looks.
Yeah.
I've had someone tell me, like they were trying to tell me that I have a really great body or whatever. And I'm like, it's because you've only seen me through pictures and videos. And they were like, I was like, I was like, I know how to pose. And they were like, yeah, but you said it videos. You can't hide your body in videos, Daniela. I know what your body looks like.
Unless you
You
walk
have
around
an
all day like
amazing
this.
and a beautiful, huh?
Unless you walk around all day like this, like, and you don't in
Yeah,
video. You don't
no,
walk around like with a
they were
pose. Yeah.
like, you have an amazing and beautiful body. You're extremely beautiful. This person hypes me, shall remain nameless, hypes me up so hard and is like, you are a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman. And having people like that in my life tell me is so essential. Surround yourself with people that hype you up, guys. Surround yourself with people that are like, no, your body is beautiful. You don't need to change jack squat. If you want to, if that's your, ask yourself why. If you're trying to lose weight because you think that losing weight will make you happy,
No.
it's not
I
going to.
have newsflash. Yep. It did
And you
not
don't
make me
have
happy.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is beautiful. I wish that media portrayed that more. And I love that you talked about seeing people that look more like you. That's why I do the videos. That's what gets me to post the video. I'm like, representation. You know what? Be what you want to see. Post the video. And I cringe. I hit post and I run away because I'm always so afraid
No.
that people and the worst part is if a video doesn't perform well, I always go, oh, it's because you're fat.
It's
So
so
bad.
hard to
So bad.
dismantle that voice. It is so hard. And they said, yes, I love that because that is actually something that, just WAF and this whole project has, inspired for me is to create the content that I would like to see so that, I said, I'm looking for all these girls who look like me and looking for all these people who look like me to gravitate. And I'm like, I want to look for them, but I'm also want to create what is it called? The lighthouses. I want to create that so people can gravitate to me. And they can be like, oh, I look like her. Or you know what, I'm kind of like her, and that will help me find people who are like me and who look like me and have probably maybe struggled with the same issues. And because I seldom see that, I seldom see people like that on either my feed or even in my day-to-day life, or maybe they do struggle with the issues but they're afraid to open up about it, because that was one thing that was very isolating when I was struggling with my issues, was that literally I knew no one who had weight issues like me or the body dysmorphia. I knew it was very isolating, so I very much hid it under wraps. The people who knew about it was my family, right? But besides that, it was very much under wraps. My friends would have probably been surprised. I mean, they probably assumed, just based on behavior and everything, but like they probably would have been surprised to think that I struggled so intensely with it because I hid it from everybody. I was like, I'm not talking about this. Like nobody
Yeah,
talked
same.
about this. Yeah. And
Same.
so I think that's why like it made me feel very isolated.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, coming forward and talking about it that I realized that, it's just, talking about it really helped me out and really like helped me be open. And I'd say another thing that you mentioned that really did help me out as well, and it's been helping me out lately. Like you mentioned, there are no pictures of me during certain years. High school pictures, I went ahead one time, and when I was in college, I went ahead and untagged myself in so many pictures because my body dysmorphia also extended to my face. But that's a whole other topic. I used to think that I was just ugly, and so I untagged myself in all of these pictures, and any picture that was of my body in a way that I didn't like, untag, delete. And I did all of that. And then, so there are hardly any pictures of me in high school that I didn't filter through or sift through. And then there are like pictures, of me in college that I did because it was like a norm. Instagram was like starting at the time, and it was like the norm to take pictures. And I used to, that's the reason why the pictures exist. But I was not somebody who posted regularly. And then there was a huge gap of years that I did not post because I felt bad about myself. And although on the outside, the ideal, like I mentioned, I had lost weight, I had now had my ideal body, I did not post pictures of the ideal body because I was the ideal body because quote unquote, because I didn't feel happy, and I just felt worse and worse and worse about myself, and that reflected in pictures. I didn't take pictures, and that's its own topic of its own. But like, yeah, taking pictures of myself. The most I have ever posted in my entire life has been this past year. I post pictures. I did one of the first things that ever scared me. I did a fashion lookbook for one of my for my Instagram, and I remember that I was like, "Girl, you can't hide. It's video. You can't hide. Like pictures you can, but you can't hide if you do a video."
Yep.
And I did, and it was so much fun. It was great, and I never thought I would because I used to always put it off and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna do my fashion lookbook when I'm skinnier, when I lose 10 pounds." When I'm thinner, when I look okay from all angles, I will do it. But I did it, and I think that that's really helped me in trying to separate. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes I look back at the pictures and think, oh God, you do look bad. You look fat. Like you look fat, or I can see the cellulite, or I can see the loose skin. And I'll say it to myself and I'll be like, oh God, your thoughts in your head are justified. But I've learned to put down the phone or the video and come back to it later. And I tend to feel better about it because it takes some deconstructing in your brain.
Oh
It
yeah,
helped me
I
feel
look
better.
back at pictures and videos all the time, and I'm like, we do not look the way that we did. Or I'll look back at when I thought I was fat. I remember, like, because
Mm-hmm.
when I was leaving my ideal body, I still thought I was like kind of fat or whatever. Um, and I'm like, girl, you look so good. Like, oh, if I only knew what I had then, but yeah.
I think so too. I think that is like the biggest like tip that I have come across this past in this whole pandemic, and this like we always talk about this. This pandemic has had so many bad things happen, and this past year has had so many bad things, but so many hidden blessings. And this is a hidden blessing, is that there was nothing to do, guys, but get dressed up and take pictures of myself, really. And I will encourage people to do the same. Take pictures how you feel comfortable. If you don't want to get dressed up, don't get dressed up. Take a
Yeah.
picture of your sweats.
Also,
Um,
one thing I will say, because
mhm.
although I'm the quote unquote pose queen, I didn't always like my poses. It takes
Uh-huh.
practice, guys. So like I highly also recommend playing dress up and taking pictures of yourself. You're slowly going to start to love your body. At least it's
Exactly.
worked for me. But yes, the first few times you might not like it
You
because you're
might
not
not, because
comfortable
I
in
didn't
front of
like
the
it.
camera yet. It takes a little time, a little practice, and that's totally okay. But slowly but surely, you're going to start hopefully seeing a difference in the way you perceive yourself, and remind
Yes.
yourself to be kind to yourself, love
Hmm.
yourself, and that your body is beloved. And tell yourself that you're beautiful until you believe it.
Yes,
Tell yourself until you believe
I agree. And you know that thing about pictures you said, like, this takes a while. And let's say you don't love the first couple, right? The first couple you take, that's the beauty of pictures. Delete them. Hit delete. Don't keep them. Delete
it.
them.
Yes.
Try again.
Delete those pictures of what your body looks, the before and after pictures.
Yes, delete.
Because
I used to do that
especially
too.
it's because those I used to hold on to those, and they made me
Hmm.
feel crap about my body. They were a constant reminder of where my body still hadn't gotten to.
Hmm.
And get rid of the clothes that you're holding on to lose weight,
Yes.
because
Hmm.
your body may never be what it used to be, and that's
Yes.
okay.
And that, yeah.
Appreciate your body now. And maybe that's how you'll see changes, and maybe you won't. But at least what you'll see is a change in your mentality, a shift,
Yes.
slow shift, but stick with it, guys. Really, really do. It's been the thing that's worked for me, and not to say that it completely works all the time. Sometimes I still struggle with it a lot,
Hmm.
but it's helped significantly for me.
Yeah, I agree. Clothing as well. Clothing, that's a big one. And I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, clothing. Get rid of those clothes that don't fit you. That helped me too. I stopped doing that. Buy clothes that, like that you feel good in, no matter what size they're in. Cut off the tag if you need to. If you don't want to look at the size, cut that off.
Yeah.
And I will say another good one that has really helped me out with is dress how you are feeling that day. Like I mentioned, how I felt this week. I planned ahead of time. I know that some days I don't want to wear anything tight. I don't want to wear anything cropped. I know that is like me. Yeah, and yes.
Also, yes, dress how you feel, but make sure even your clothes that's your lazy clothes, that you like it.
Yes, that's what I was
Because
getting
if you
into.
wear clothes that you don't even like, how are you going to like the way that you look if you don't even like the clothes? I recently got
Exactly.
rid of all of my quote unquote ugly clothes that I wear on my lazy days, and I've replaced them with lazy clothes, but that I think is kind of cute. And
Yeah.
and I'll be looking lazy, but I'm like, yo, why don't we wear sweats more often? We kind of cute.
Yes, I agree. I
Replace it.
have those too. I bought some sweats that I'm like, these look good. I'd wear them out. I'd go to the store in these. I'm okay with these.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like same, like I've done it too, where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like wearing something, like I mentioned, bodycon tight, short. I don't want to feel, I don't want to show any skin. Okay. That's okay too. I put on something that still makes me feel great. That's something that I love, like this today. My pink, I know I love pink. I know that it makes me happy. So I found something that is like I feel covered in and feel comfortable in without feeling like I have to wear black, I have to hide my body, I have to do this. Like, no, it still makes me feel like I'm wearing an outfit, you know. I am, no air quotes. I did the air quotes. No, no, no. I am wearing an outfit regardless of what what it is. This is the outfit. So yeah, I think those are my two biggest tips I'd have. What about you? Like, do you have
Well, I
any other?
kind of blended my tips in there. Those are the tips that will my big tip that I had was tell yourself you're beautiful.
Yes,
What
that
you
is a big
said
one.
about like because me and her talk about this all the time, like
Uh-huh.
follow people that look like you,
Mm-hmm.
follow a variety of people, delete the accounts of the influencers or the beauty bloggers that look like the ideal body that you want. That's their body. It's not your
Yes.
body. Follow people that look like you. And this, I want to I want to thank you, Jennifer, for being open to talking about this topic. As y'all have heard, this was definitely a long podcast. It's gonna be a fun one to edit later, but
Oh,
this is definitely a long podcast. But this was a very difficult topic for both of us. We talk about body dysmorphia behind closed doors all the time. It's one of the topics that really got us into like, ooh, we should talk about this on a podcast
mm-hmm.
because it's hard. But like as you can see, because you'll look at us, right? And I know Jennifer has a way of how she feels about herself, but we look very different
Mm-hmm.
body size wise, right? So if you looked at both of us, you might be more inclined to think that I have body dysmorphia, and maybe not that Jennifer has body dysmorphia. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe 10 years ago when we were in high school, maybe you would have thought the opposite. But
Mm-hmm.
it goes to show that it doesn't matter what your body looks like. Unfortunately, we're all struggling with it. And like you mentioned, men do too. Men
Of
do too.
course.
This is a place for everyone because I think feminism is for everyone, right?
It is.
Um, but um, but just keep in mind where like we need to start being in the present, being in the now, loving our bodies now, and taking care of ourselves now. Wear the clothes that fits you. I don't know what size pants my pants are, and I don't want to know. I don't care. I go to the store and you can ask me what size pants I wear. I don't know. I'll go to the store and I'm like, I think this will fit. And I'll grab like a size down, a size up, but I don't actually look at the number. I just like, well, I do look at the number,
Apply
but I
that
don't
one.
bother to remember. I can't
Yeah.
remember. And it's because I don't want to get in my head about the number. Also, a tip that I learned from a support group that I'm in is if
Uh-huh.
the number affects you and going to the doctor worries you, you're actually not required to get your weight taken every time. So you can request to not have your weight taken.
Mm.
Also, you can request to not see it because it triggers you. Just let them know it triggers you. It triggers it, and it's fine. They won't force you to. You could turn
Of
around,
course.
look at that number, talk to your doctor about it. Like but yeah, you don't have to see that number. If the number is a problem for you, don't look.
Yeah.
Don't look, because ever since I didn't look, I like the way that I feel because I don't know what number I am, but I feel good in my clothes. I feel beautiful.
I
And
need to apply these tips. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So those are the tips that I have. But I think that brings us to a wrap to this
Yes.
very long roller coaster of emotion, but
It
wonderful conversation today.
It definitely does. Like we mentioned, it's going to be a longer podcast than usual. I apologize. What you guys are picking up right now is the train. I live by some train tracks.
I can't hear
But
it.
anywho, sorry. But anywho, yes, it is going to be a long one because as you can tell, this topic is very near and dear. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I've experienced it since I was like, you guys heard the story, since I was very young. This was something that I even chose what wanted originally to go down a career path with. So this is something that is super personal to me and super near and dear to my heart. And like, a topic I could go on and on for hours, guys. So thank you guys
Yes.
for listening to us and sticking around if this is a really long one. I want to say I'm sorry, but I don't apologize. This is an important
Don't.
topic. I don't
Don't.
apologize.
I'm gonna
This is an
really
important
enjoy
topic.
editing this one.
Yeah. So with that being said, the chais is done. My chai is done. Yours is done. And so is this chisme. Thank you guys for tuning in. You definitely want to catch our next episode. You don't want to miss this one when it uploads, but you want to look forward to our next ones too. We upload on Talk About It Thursdays on the World of Fidela YouTube.
Mhm. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you can
Mhm.
keep up with all of our videos. Like she said, we post every Talk About It Thursday. If you are listening to us, you can watch us on YouTube. We'll put the link down below. And if you're watching us and you want to listen to us on the go, we will put the link to our Anchor account below. Also, make sure to follow our personal Instagrams to keep up with our personal life as well and the fun stuff that we do. All of that will be linked below. But
Mhm.
thank you guys so much for tuning in. Ciao.
Salud. Bye.
Bye.